What's up, guys? I'm BTC. Welcome back to the Respawn, the series where I answer your questions. Let's get started. What are your predictions for this year's All-Star skins? That's a tough one. A lot more difficult than trying to figure out which characters are going to get the event skins. But I think that there are still some patterns that we can try to follow. In the first year, it was Genji and Tracer, both DPS. In the second year, it was Mercy and Lucio, both healers. And in the third year, if we're following that pattern, then we could probably expect that it's going to be 2 tanks. And if we look at the characters in the tank category, Reinhardt and D.Va have not gotten a legendary skin in over a year. So my best guess is Reinhardt and D.Va for this year's All-Star skins. How would you improve Zenyatta's healing? The short answer is that I wouldn't. I would keep him as an off healer. It's better to improve the other aspects of the character because it's not a good idea for all the heroes in the healer category to just have a huge amount of raw healing output. You need some variety. Having said all that, there are several ways you could improve his healing. The simplest and most boring way is to increase the healing per second on the orb. Another method would be to give him 2 orbs so that he can put one on 2 different teammates. But I think a more interesting solution would be to modify how the healing orb itself works. When you place it on a teammate, it's going to heal that target for 30 per second. But it could also apply a small area effect healing. I'm not talking anything gigantic like what Lucio or Brigitte have. I'm talking something that would only reach out maybe 2 meters, so a very small area around the target would also get a little bit of healing per second. Maybe something like 8 or 10 healing per second. So a much, much smaller amount than the main target, but it would still improve the healing. And we don't have to worry about Goat's Comp anymore, so you don't have to worry about all of that sort of stuff. But I think that would be a more interesting way of being able to heal multiple people and just improve the overall healing. But again, I don't really think he needs it. I think they would be better off emphasizing the other aspects of the character. How do you use the experimental game mode settings in the practice range? It's really quite simple. You're not going to go into the training area, though. Instead, go to Play, Game Browser, and then create a match. Once you're here, go into Settings, Modes, Practice Range, and turn it on. Go back, Lobby. Make sure that the second team has 0 players, otherwise you'll get an error from the Workshop game mode. And then you have Use Experimental Update if available. Turn that on. Go back, go to Maps. You can shut all of that stuff off, and then just turn on the Practice Range. And then once you go in, it will bring you to the practice range, and if there's an experimental update that's available, it will use those settings instead. What would you like to see in Overwatch 2? I've been making a list of stuff that I would like to see changed in the game for quite a while, and every time I think of something, I just put it on the list. The plan was to make a video at some point or another going through all the different things, but since it's taken me a little while to actually make the video, they've gone and fixed a bunch of the things, like being able to sort the player icons. I mean, it only took them like, what, 5 years? And then also the stats page on the career profile. That's been changed, and now it looks a lot better than it was before. But there still are a bunch of things that I would like to have changed. A couple of them I'll give to you is being able to change the HUD where the ability icons are. I would like to be able to move that stuff around, and where your player health is and stuff, I would like to be able to just kind of rearrange that. Also, if we're talking about Overwatch 2 specific things, I think the biggest thing that I would like to see is in the PvE style type of gameplay, like the campaigns and stuff, I want a versus mode, similar to what they have in Left 4 Dead, where you have 4 people controlling the heroes, and then 4 people on the other team who get to control special enemies, like the kind of mini-boss type stuff. That would be so awesome, because then you can have one team play all the way through as the heroes, and then they get as far as they can, and then they switch sides, and then the other team gets to play the heroes, and the first team gets to play like the mini bosses and stuff. That would be really awesome. Versus mode was so much fun in the Left 4 Dead games. I would really like to see that. That's like the biggest thing that I want in Overwatch 2. What do you think has the biggest impact on determining the meta? It's either new characters, which we aren't going to get anymore until Overwatch 2, or right now it's just buffs and nerfs from Blizzard. there really is not any room for creativity for the players because there simply are not enough characters and there's almost no ability overlap whatsoever. So you don't have the same kind of freedom that you do in a game like Dota 2, where the devs can nerf something or buff something and it does have an impact, but what ultimately decides what the meta is going to be is the player creativity in creating different matches and synergies and all that sort of stuff. And you have that in Dota 2, and it simply does not exist in Overwatch. There just isn't enough stuff. There aren't enough characters for the players to really be creative. And what we've seen recently is barriers getting nerfed into the ground, and they're just not very good anymore. And then we have buffs with Roadhog, and now he's really good. So it's all about what is getting buffed and what's getting nerfed. I mean, just recently, Genji was buffed, and for a short amount of time, he was incredibly powerful, and then they nerfed him, and then he dropped out. So it's all about buffs and nerfs. There's no room for player creativity in Overwatch. It just doesn't happen. Would there ever be a hero with an ability that heals to 100%? I don't think Blizzard would ever do it, but I don't see why not. It's not nearly as powerful as some people would think. Look at how much healing Ana does. It's 70 per hit, which means that if someone like McCree has only 60 health, then she can hit him twice, which takes, barely a second or two, and then you're up to full health. So really, really fast, you can get teammates to full health. Now, in the case of a tank, well, you could just throw a Bionade at them. And then very quickly, within just a second or two, you can get Reinhardt or Roadhog up to full. So it's not nearly as powerful as you would think. I don't know if you could have it as like a targeted ability like with Brigitte's Repair Pack. I think it would probably have to be a projectile. Maybe it would be on like a 12-second cooldown or something like that. But it's not nearly as powerful as what you would think, and honestly, it seems like it might actually be kind of a waste of an ability, because again, look at characters like Ana and Baptiste, and Moira, like they can heal you up to full in just a second or two anyways, so having an ability that just brings you to full on a really long cooldown kinda seems like a bit of a waste. How would you turn a hero like Reinhardt into an off tank? That's a tough one. I've been thinking about it quite a bit. I don't have really a great solution for it. I know that you would have to nerf the barrier quite a bit, and in exchange you would have to increase his damage. Maybe change the way that Fire Strike works, where it's on a shorter cooldown, but it does less damage, so that way he's able to throw out more damage. I'm not sure if you can really increase his mobility all that much, because if he's just running around hitting people with the hammer, that's going to be way too strong. You could just have kind of a death ball type comp, and it would be unbelievably powerful if you just speed boost Reinhardt and he's just running around smashing people. That would be way too strong. So I'm not really sure what you could do with all that sort of stuff. I do think that, again, the barrier would have to get nerfed, and they're probably going to have to find a different way for him to really deal effective damage, but I'm not really sure. What do you think of a character that gains stacking buffs over the course of a round? Essentially gets stronger as the round goes on. I don't think that would be a good idea at all for several reasons. The first is that you would be absolutely required to start the round with that character, because you would need to be able to gain as many stacking buffs as you possibly can. If you tried to switch to that character halfway through the round, then you would be substantially weaker than the other team who started with that hero. So that's number one problem. The second problem is with snowballing. If one team is starting to win, then you're going to get a lot more of those stacking buffs, and it's just going to make it more and more difficult for the other team to catch up. So that's not a good idea. However, there is a case where you could have something like this work, but it would have to be a temporary buff. It can't last for the entire round. So let's say you get a critical, and then your character has a passive that gives you a slight damage buff. And then you get another critical, and you get a little bit more of a damage buff. And you get another critical, and you get another damage buff. But it can't last for the entire round. It would have to last for maybe 5 seconds or something like that, right? It would have to be a very temporary thing where it rewards you for certain activities and you can gain those buffs, but then it needs to drop off after a certain amount of time. You can't keep it for the whole round. Would having Flinch in Overwatch be a good idea? In case you don't know, Flinch is what happens when you get hit. It makes your aim and your camera kind of shake a little bit, and it makes it more difficult to attack whatever you're trying to hit. It works in games like CSGO and Call of Duty because your time to kill is really low and you get hit a couple of times and you either respond right away or you're just done. However, in Overwatch, players are constantly taking damage, and it's lots of little sources of damage. It's AoE, it's damage over time, and having your camera shake or your aim get messed up every single time you get hit would be really bad, and I just don't think that it would be a good thing to put into Overwatch at all. And that is going to be all the questions for this week. Thank you to everyone who's submitted one. There is a brand new question card that is up on the community section of my YouTube channel. If you've got a question that you'd like to see in the Respawn, check the link and post your question. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to be comment of the video, then leave yours, and while you're at it, ring the bell so you never miss a new video. Also, if you want to get some cool gear, join my Discord server, or follow me on social media, then check out the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.